Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk about the third of the Four Noble Truths in Buddhism, known as Nirodha Sakatha, truth of the cessation of suffering. If you've ever felt an overwhelming sense of despair in life, and if you've ever truly wished to be free from that suffering, then what I'm about to share may resonate deeply with you. In simple terms, Nirodha teaches that it is possible to completely bring suffering to an end. The state in which this occurs is what Buddhism refers to as nibbana or nirvana. Now you may be thinking, wait, can suffering really be ended completely? Is that even possible? It's a natural doubt because most of us have grown up accepting suffering as an inevitable part of life. It becomes so familiar that we no longer question its presence. But the Buddha thought differently. Through deep meditation and careful observation, he discovered through his own experience that suffering has a cause, and that by removing this cause, suffering can also come to an end. This realization was not an abstract theory for him. It was something he verified directly. The state in which suffering ends, he found, was none other than nibbana. The Buddha first shared this truth after attaining enlightenment under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. He traveled to Sarnath, to the deer park, where he encountered 5 fellow ascetics. It was to them that he first proclaimed this profound insight. There is an end to suffering. It is said that when he spoke these words, the eyes of his companions were filled with both surprise and hope. Until then, they had believed that only harsh asceticism could lead to liberation. Imagine the moment. These practitioners had been fasting, mortifying their bodies, and pushing themselves through intense practices for years. Then suddenly they were told that suffering could actually end. What a shock that must have been, and what a deep hope it must have sparked in their hearts. Yet the Buddha did not advocate for either extreme, neither indulgence in sensual pleasures nor self-torture. Instead, he taught the middle way, a balanced path of practice that leads to nibbana. And importantly, nibbana is not some mystical realm we reach after death. It is a mental state that can be realized right here and now. Nibbana is the state where all mental defilements are extinguished. The mind becomes utterly still. When the fires of anger, craving, and delusion burn out, the mind settles into deep peace. Like a flame that has gone out and leaves behind no smoke, the mind in this state perceives the world with clarity and stillness. This is the very heart of Nirodha Sakka. Interestingly, the word nibbana comes from the Sanskrit nirvana, meaning to blow out, like extinguishing a flame. It is the calming of the inner fires that cause us suffering. So what does this state mean for us? It's not that we become numb or feel nothing. Quite the opposite. It's a condition in which we see everything with profound clarity and compassion. Let me share a story that illustrates this. One day, a farmer approached the Buddha, filled with frustration and anger. "You claim your teaching ends suffering," he said, "but my fields are ruined by drought. My cattle have died from disease. My family suffers in poverty, and I myself am growing old. How can your teaching possibly help with this kind of suffering?" The Buddha calmly looked at him and said, "You have 83 troubles: poor harvests, illness, aging, death, and relationship struggles. No one can escape these 83 kinds of suffering. But my teaching is meant to help you let go of the 84th. The farmer was puzzled. "And what is the 84th trouble?" he asked. The Buddha replied with a gentle smile, "The 84th is the desire to have a life without any suffering." Hearing this, the farmer fell silent. And here lies the paradox. In our longing for a life without pain, we often create even more suffering. This yearning blinds us to the happiness available in the present moment. Nirodha Sakka means letting go of this kind of attachment, freeing the heart. Even the desperate desire to eliminate suffering must be seen as another form of clinging. We must learn to observe it, understand it, and gently release it. This farmer story is deeply relevant to our modern lives. We, too, carry many burdens: stress from work, anxieties in relationships, health worries, and fears about the future. In our attempts to escape these pains, we often become trapped by the very desire to be free of them. Take, for example, the idea that I must perform perfectly at work. That pressure turns work into suffering. Or everyone must like methods creates exhaustion in our social lives. Or the future must be secure. This robs us of present peace. All of these arise from the 84th. Trouble the craving for things to be a certain way. So how can we approach Nibbanath's freedom from suffering? The answer lies in the eightfold path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These are the practices that gradually transform the mind. Right view means seeing things as they truly are. Many of our sufferings begin with distorted perceptions, like interpreting a single failure as proof of total inadequacy, or mistaking a casual comment as hostility. With right view, we learn to take in reality without exaggeration or denial. Right intention is the habit of thinking with compassion and wisdom, replacing anger and hatred with understanding and kindness. Right speech involves speaking truthfully, avoiding words that harm, and not indulging in meaningless chatter. Our words affect not only others but our own minds as well. Right action is to refrain from killing, stealing, and harmful sexual behavior, not as moral rules, but as practices that maintain inner peace. Right livelihood is about earning a living in a way that does not harm others and contributes to society positively. Right effort means applying ourselves with balance, neither lazily neglecting our goals nor driving ourselves into burnout. It's the art of steady, moderate discipline. Right mindfulness trains us to be fully aware of the present moment, instead of being lost in past regrets or future fears. And finally, right concentration is the deep state of meditative calm, where the mind becomes still, focused, and serene. By cultivating these 8 aspects of practice in our daily lives, we gradually calm the mind, reduce defilements, and allow the light of Nibbana to shine from within. In this way, Nirodhasaka is not merely a doctrine or belief. It is an invitation to experience freedom, to let go of craving, and to discover a peace that is already available here and now. What's important to understand here is that nirvana is not a reward granted after death. The Buddha is said to have attained nirvana while still alive. In other words, even from this very moment, through our own efforts and practice, we can begin to cut through the roots of suffering little by little. In fact, the 45 years following the Buddha's enlightenment serve as a living example of nirvana experience during one's lifetime. Though he was completely liberated from suffering, he continued to teach tirelessly for the benefit of others, guiding countless people with compassion and wisdom. This offers a profoundly hopeful message for us. Nirvana is not some distant future goal, it is a state of mind that can be tasted here and now. For example, in deep meditation, if even for a brief moment our mind becomes completely still, or when we are moved by the beauty of nature and forget all our worries, feeling pure joy, we may be touching a glimpse of nirvana. One who has reached nirvana possesses both the wisdom to quietly observe all things and the heart to show loving kindness to all beings. Like a still and unmoving lake, they are undisturbed by external winds, simply existing in serene presence. Perhaps this calm and centered state of being is the ideal we should aspire to. But let there be no misunderstanding. Nirvana does not mean abandoning all emotion. Rather, it is a free and unshackled mind that remains untouched by anger or jealousy, while still holding on to love, kindness, and empathy. Those who attain nirvana do not become cold or emotionless. On the contrary, they embody a profound love and understanding for all beings, while remaining unattached and free. It's like a mother who loves her child deeply, yet knows that sometimes, for the sake of that child's growth, she must be firm. Because there is love, she can let go of attachment. Such a higher form of love exists within the state of nirvana. This is why the teaching of the Third Noble, truth, the cessation of suffering, does not encourage escapism, but instead grants us the power to transform reality. It's not about running away from suffering, but rather about understanding its nature and gaining the wisdom to rise above it. It's not about turning a blind eye to problems, but about seeing their root causes clearly and discovering how to resolve them. That is the true meaning of the cessation of suffering. Suppose you are struggling with a difficult relationship at work. From the perspective of this teaching, the problem often lies not with the other person, but with our own attachments and expectations. Letting go of ideas like they should act the way I want, or I must be recognized by everyone can significantly ease the suffering caused by interpersonal conflict. The same applies to anxiety about the future. If we release attachments like I must always be safe or failure is unacceptable, we become better able to face an uncertain future with a calm heart. So, how can we actually put this teaching into practice in our daily lives? The first step is to accurately identify the cause of our suffering. Often, the true cause is not the external situation itself, but our own reactions and attachments to that situation. For example, when it rains, that is simply a natural phenomenon. But when we think, this ruined my plans, or my laundry won't dry, we create suffering. The rain itself is not the problem. It's our expectations and attachments surrounding the rain that give rise to distress. Next, we must practice letting go. This doesn't mean shutting off our thoughts, but rather loosening our grip on excessive expectations or clinging. We transform rigid thoughts like it must be this way into more flexible ones. Like it's okay whether it is or isn't. We shift from I must succeed to I will do my best and accept whatever result comes. These shifts in mindset won't happen overnight, but with consistent small efforts, our hearts will begin to change. Meditation plays a key role in the practice of this truth, but meditation is not limited to sitting in stillness for hours. In fact, mindfulness in daily life is also a powerful form of meditation. Paying attention to the sensations in your feet while walking, savoring the taste and aroma of food as you eat, listening to someone without bias during a conversation, observing anger or sadness when it arises without judgment. These are all practices of returning to this present moment and releasing attachment. And perhaps most important of all is to stop chasing perfection. We are human after all. We will feel anger, sadness, and attachment from time to time. That's natural. What matters is not to scold ourselves for it, but to gently accept it and return again to our practice. As we deepen our understanding of this teaching, we begin to realize that it is intimately connected with compassion. A person who truly understands the root of their own suffering comes to understand that the suffering of others arises from the same place. Everyone is burdened by attachment. Everyone is seeking liberation. From this realization, compassion naturally arises. We no longer see others as enemies, but as fellow travelers walking the same path toward freedom. This shows that the cessation of suffering is not only a personal goal. It includes a vast, compassionate heart that wishes for the end of suffering for all beings. Modern life is filled with constant information and stimulation. On social media, we are bombarded by images of others' success and happiness, and we often fall without realizing into the suffering of comparison. In a culture that prizes material abundance, we're driven by endless desires. More. In such a world, the teaching of the cessation of suffering takes on even greater significance. It reminds us not to tie our happiness to external circumstances, but to cultivate peace within, to stop comparing ourselves to others, and to focus on our own journey, to seek not fleeting pleasures, but lasting fulfillment. These teachings offer deeply practical and valuable wisdom for all of us, living in today's world. No matter how much suffering you may be experiencing right now, the light of nirvana is never far away. Just as it was for the Buddha, the potential lies within each and every one of us, as long as we continue to recognize the causes of our suffering and strive toward liberation. We are surely, even if little by little, walking toward the serene light of nirvana. There may be times when we lose our way. There may be times when we feel like giving up. But the teaching of the Third Noble Truth assures us suffering does have an end. And that end is not in some distant future, it is found in this very moment of practice. With each step, each breath, each moment of awareness, the path to nirvana opens before us. The teaching we explored today is not mere theory. It is a living wisdom that each of us can experience and embody for ourselves. You can begin walking this path not tomorrow, but right now. When you notice a small attachment, try letting it go gently. Rather than blaming the outside world, look into your own heart for the source of pain. Soften your need for perfection, and start noticing the blessings that are already here. These small practices, repeated, will gradually bring about great transformation. And one day, perhaps before you even realize it, you will discover that the serene, compassionate light of nirvana already resides within your own heart. So today, take one more step. Let your heart be guided toward that world of peace and kindness. Suffering does have an end. And with this hopeful truth in your heart, may you begin a new day. Until next time, may your heart be at peace.